Welcome to U.S. Defense Line Channel. Operations continue unabated in Luhansk, one of the key regions in the east. In Donetsk, another key region, a secret Russian military post has been discovered and unearthed. Ukrainian troops will continue their struggle until there is not a single soldier of Russia left on the fronts. Ukrainian territory is filled with parts of Russian military equipment. Ukrainian troops, who did not want to include Russian military equipment both on land and in the air, are now showing their struggle not to include them in the sea. Size of Russia's loss in Ukraine is increasing day by day. Ukraine is destroying something else important to Russian forces every day. According to the statement of the Ukrainian General Staff, it had reported the damage caused by the Ukrainian forces to the Russian forces in the Kherson Oblast. It was also announced that a Russian tugboat was destroyed by the Ukrainian attack at a Russian crossing over the Dnipro River near Antoniivka. It was also reported that both ships were damaged and required repairs. He also announced that the Ukrainian armed forces had hit a column of Russian troops waiting to cross the Dnipro River around Olhivka. Result of the attack has not yet been announced. General Staff announced in its statement that 6 Russian fueled tankers were destroyed near the Novovasilivka area in Mykolaiv. With all these moves, Russia's losses are beginning to increase at sea. Moreover, the signals of this were given by the move towards the Russian military shipyard. Ukrainian troops seem to want to corner the Russian soldiers, leaving them unequipped, especially by targeting critical logistics points. Critical operations on the Eastern Front are starting to yield results. Russian President Putin's dreams are falling into the water. In Donbass, which was one of the reasons for starting the war, major defeats for Russia were imminent. In recent days, it is seen that Ukrainian troops have advanced by launching powerful operations to critical points on this front. It is even known that Russia held referendums that were not accepted in these regions. Thereupon, the Ukrainian troops started to retake the regions on the fronts one by one, increasing the tension in Moscow. According to the breaking news, the Ukrainian troops once again revealed the secret spot of the Russian soldiers. On the Donetsk front, the Ukrainian border guards were conducting reconnaissance in the region. Then, in a discovered area, an area with equipment and ammunition of Russian soldiers was found. Several dozen mortars were reportedly fired at these emerging Russian military equipment positions. Ukrainian troops had previously captured many Russian military positions and confiscated ammunition. In addition, as the seized military equipment increased, Ukraine's available resources began to increase. On behalf of Russia, it caused the loss of ammunition without being used. Moscow, which is currently dealing with serious equipment shortages, is running out of remedies for military rule in the war. At the same time, operations on the Luhansk front are intensifying. According to breaking news, Ukrainian troops are destroying Russian military equipment on this front. Again, a group of Russian military equipment in the region was destroyed. Among them were 2 armored combat vehicles and 5 tanks. Also, many Russian soldiers were neutralized. Thanks to the strategic advance of the Ukrainian army at the front, the Russian soldiers can be surrounded at any time. This will cause a great defeat for Russia, as happened before in the Lyman region. This defeat will again increase the tension in the military administration. Ukraine's attacks on Russian forces are not limited to these. It carried out 11 airstrikes on Russian forces with Ukrainian planes. It was reported that 7 of these attacks were made against anti-aircraft defense systems, and 4 of them were made at the points where the weapons and military equipment of the Russian forces are concentrated. Ukraine continues to hit the ammunition depots of the Russian forces, in particular. Ammunition depots are not the only ones hit by Ukraine in its attacks. Ukrainian forces continue to attack Russian forces intensively. Russia's war losses are getting more and more critical every day. Ukraine's air defense forces also destroyed 11 Iranian-made Shahed-136 unmanned aerial vehicles, 2 Caliber cruise missiles, and an Orlan-10 unmanned aerial vehicle. Ukraine's rocket and artillery units also announced that they hit 1 ammunition depot, 2 Russian command centers, 7 areas where Russian forces, weapons and military equipment, and 4 other important military targets. Ukrainian armed forces also announced that they repelled Russian forces in 14 regions, including the Bilo-Horivka region on the Luhansk front and the Spiern, Myorsk and Bakhmut regions on the Donetsk front. Russian troops forced to retreat. He had to move away from the regions with great losses. Russia, which has long wanted to achieve dominance in these regions, has not been able to achieve the success it wanted for months. This proved that even though it is a much larger country, it mismanaged the war with big mistakes. Russian forces, on the other hand, continue their offensive efforts on Ukrainian soil. Russian troops also carried out 21 air strikes, 6 missile strikes, and over 60 multiple launch rocket system attacks. It was reported that Russian forces attacked 20 places in 8 regions, including Zaporizhzhia, Mykolaiv, Kharkiv. Although Russia wants to achieve regional dominance with these attacks, it cannot reach its goal. On the contrary, it is getting harder and harder to achieve success in regions as it carries out attacks focused on damaging infrastructures. Because although these attacks of Russia damage the regions, they cause the countries to increase their aid to Ukraine. As the infrastructures are repaired, the attack attempts of the Russian troops and the ammunition they use are wasted. Due to the futile attacks and false advances of the Russian forces, their losses are increasing more and more critically with each passing day. General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine announced the losses of Russian troops in one day. Russia is losing more and more of its military forces on the territory of Ukraine. Ukrainian troops neutralized 600 Russian soldiers in just one day. Losses of the Russian forces are not limited to these. At the same time, 2 cruise missiles, 2 helicopters, 8 tanks, 21 armored combat vehicles, 4 artillery systems, 1 air defense system, and 12 unmanned aerial vehicles were destroyed. It was reported that the most losses of Russian forces were again in Avdiivka and Lyman fronts. Return of any such loss on behalf of the Russian soldiers will be critical. It will become more difficult for the Russian troops, whose operational power has become limited due to the decreasing military equipment, to hold on to the fronts and achieve success. It is now necessary for countries to take their every move with great thought and in line with strategic goals. With every move made, the course of the war will be shaped. If Ukraine can continue its advance on the fronts by increasing its effective operations, it will take back many regions and drive Russian soldiers away from the regions. This will make the Ukrainian flags fly again in the regions. Russia, on the other hand, may have to face greater defeats and losses if it continues to be unable to find solutions to its misguided strategies and military management shortcomings. Especially in recent days, it seems to be insufficient in attack and defense due to serious losses. For these reasons, they lose the areas they had taken hard in a few months to the Ukrainian troops in a few days. This shows that the Ukrainian soldiers have gained a lot of experience and can continue their successful moves by increasing. Now both countries must continue the war without fail. In the coming days, we will see how the war will progress and what kind of decisions the leaders will shape the war. This war, which has caused serious losses since the beginning of the war, is now progressing in favor of Ukraine. This increase is the tension on the Russian side. Increase in tension affects both the army and senior commanders. Moreover, we saw that especially soldiers and commanders were targeted and shown as criminals in major defeats. Continuing this in this way will further reduce the motivation of the Russian soldiers on the fronts and their belief in the war. This, albeit indirectly, will allow the losses to reach serious dimensions and enable Ukraine to achieve great success. Now every step taken has become much more important. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.